Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to our Hadith disciples and Hadith disciples. The question says, when I reverted to Islam 8 months ago, I took the name Khalid. Is it a good idea to legally change my first name? We say, Brother Khalid, may Allah bless you and give you success in this life and hereafter. Changing one's name in Islam is not of one ruling. Sometimes changing your name in Islam could be obligatory. Sometimes it could be recommended. Other times it could be impermissible. And sometimes it could be disliked. And there are many other instances in which changing one's name becomes just permissible, unprescribed. It's mubah. It's no one specific ruling that pertains to it. If you want to change your name from John to Jim, Jim to Khalid, there's nothing wrong with it. If you had a name before Islam that represented servitude and worship for other than Allah, if your name was the servant of Jesus, if your name was the servant of this man and of this spirit and this thing, then obviously changing the name will be obligatory. If your name was something that was permissible, but it was disliked, such as you had a name that symbolized the great amount of piety and righteousness, then it will be recommended for you to change your name to another type of name. Okay? And sometimes, so, basically what we're saying is it could be mandatory to change it, and haram what? To keep it. So the 5 rulings, they reflect on each other like 2 mirrors. It's haram to keep the name, the slave of Jesus, the servant of Jesus, and it's mandatory to change it to Khalid or something else. The slave of Ar-Rahman, the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hopefully that's clear. It could be haram to keep a name and mandatory to change it. It could be makruh, dislike to keep a name, and what? Recommended to change it. Hopefully that's clear. We say these rulings, the halal or the mandatory, recommended, haram and dislike, we say they're like 2 mirrors. They bounce back off of each other over and over again. Haram here, mandatory there. Dislike there, recommended on the other side. So therefore, changing your first name, sometimes it's mandatory, sometimes it's impermissible, depending on what was your name before al-Islam. So if you had a normal type of name like John or Dick or James or Ronald or whatever type of non-Muslim name, whatever it may be, whatever your cultural background, your ethnic background, whatever the case may be, we don't know where the person is from, even from America, Australia, who knows what his ethnicity is, so on and so forth. So whatever your name was, and it wasn't bad and it wasn't negative, it wasn't unfit Islamically, then you don't have to change your name. But if you choose to change your name, and this is the advice that we give you, to have a name that is two things. Number 1, Islamic, and number 2, something that's known among the Muslims. Both Islamic and known to the Muslims, and there's a difference. A person can have an Islamic name, and a person can have a name that isn't Islamic. It may not necessarily be Arabic or Arabian or whatever the case may be, but it's a name that's known among the Muslims of your country, the Muslims of your background, such as an Islamic name, and that is also Arabic, is Muhammad. Muhammad have the name of the Prophet of Islam. And there are some people who come from different regions, different parts of Africa. Their name may be Mimman Sahabi, Mamadou, Muhammadu, things like this, Ahmadu, and things like this, that originally come from Arabic and represent the Prophet's name and names of other righteous men. So therefore, and the same applies to women as well, women's names as well. So therefore, the name, first and foremost, it should be Islamic. That's best, always. It doesn't necessarily have to be Arabic, but it lies no doubt that which is mentioned in the Quran, that which the Sahaba, the names that they had, those are known, respected, beautiful names in the Arabic language, is the language of the Quran. No, that's good, that's best. But if it isn't, at least something that's known to the Muslims of Africa, the Muslims of Australia, the original people of Australia. We're not talking about those who came from Western countries and changed the culture, but the original people that were Muslims, or whatever region or part of the earth or continent that you come from. So that's what's best. But it's not necessarily mandatory unless you had a bad name. And there are many hadiths to support this. when the Prophet heard this companion's name was the servant of Iraq, a servant of this idol, this deity, this Taghut al-Jahiliyyah, he would command them to change their names. Rather, the hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that Zainab, her name was Barra, meaning the pious. And the Prophet ﷺ, he disliked for her to be called this. And he changed her name to Zainab. He changed her name to Zainab. Everybody clear on this? And there are many other hadith with regards to the etiquettes of names. That's an entire lecture in itself. The ahkam of names. And perhaps we'll do a lecture on that separately within the lab. Last but not least, a very dangerous concept that we live in 2016. Many people accepting Islam and keeping their non-Muslim names. Or some people say their kafir names. And some people, they argue and say, well, it's not mandatory for me to change my name. I don't have to have an Arabic name. I keep my name John or Tom or Michael or this and that, whatever name. It's not haram. Arabic language is not Islam. We say, what do you have to go that far? But why would you want to be associated and related with your past before you were Muslim, before Jahiliyyah? And the most distinct, symbolic thing of a new lifestyle and of a change is what? Changing of the name. You enter a gang, what's the first thing they give you? A nickname. You enter a faith, you enter anything that you go to, they give you a new name, which is symbolic of cutting off the past and beginning life anew. So I don't know why these people, when we're talking about people that may be learned, or du'at, or imams, or whatever they call themselves, and they still want to be associated with their non-Muslim name, let alone the whole concept of Christianity, the whole concept of slavery, the whole concept of this and of that, and so on and so forth. We don't even go that deep. But why wouldn't you want to have a beautiful name? Khalid, Ahmed, Ismail, Abdurrahman, Muhammad, Saleh, Abdulillah. Why wouldn't you want to have a beautiful name like that? Listen how it comes off the tongue. Saleh, Ishaq, Khalid, Ibrahim, okay? Abdullah, Abdurrahman, and things like this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.